fuck me. All right.
That should be the beginning of this episode.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming to hang out. This is the XP Lounge podcast. I am Zach.
And I am Malachi.
Thanks for coming to hang out. It is Friday, September 27th. It's when this podcast will be going live. Kai, I didn't want to confuse you. We are recording it, of course.
I was going to say, it's a Wednesday. I hope you're not too scatterbrained over there.
No, we're good.
Yes, so another take on this podcast.
We've been back and forth on, well, one, we recorded this podcast, first episode on Sunday, I think it was. We went for an hour.
Yeah, it was either Sunday or Saturday. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, over the weekend. And the sound was just god awful on my part. You could barely hear me. And then Kai's volume was just through the roof. So it was just, it was unable to be salvaged through editing.
I love how you managed to find a way to make you sound like almost dead silent and then raise my audio levels to where I'm blasting everyone's eardrums out. It's like so off.
Yeah. So I had to do a little bit of editing to bring our volumes back to normal again, which did include dropping your volume down a good bit, but at least now we can hear.
Big old microphone.
Yeah, well, and I'm using this guy right here, so this thing just for show. We don't need that. Who cares about that thing? It's gonna fuck with me because I'm looking at myself. So
hey, it's all good.
So, anyways, guys, thanks for coming to check out the podcast. This is called the XP Lounge. Essentially, it's just two cousins, more like brothers, really. We've been buddies for life. We're 5 days apart in age, and we have been gaming our entire lives. So, yeah, more like brothers, but cousins on paper, but brothers by trade, I guess you could say. I don't know.
I think we've just been friends for so long and been around each other so much that to view each other as anything less than that is kind of hard. We're just so used to, the connection that we have and the friendship that we have. It's just.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so this first episode, we're going to touch a good bit about introducing ourselves so that way, everyone here is comfortable with us moving forward. Because Kai can be a little creepy and my mustache does look a little scary sometimes too. So that way y'all know what's going on in the heads up here. Talk about the games that we like to play, our streams, because we're both Twitch streamers. And then get into some video game news, upcoming news on games that we like to play, games that are no longer available to us, things that are no longer available to us, like the Xbox Ambassador Program, which we'll touch on in a little bit. So
I have some choice words for that. Obviously.
It's coming from the guy who grinded out that Xbox Ambassador Program. I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about with that.
Yeah, to join a program and grind so hard on it, and then for a year later it to be ended, it definitely felt a little bit like a slap in the face, but what can you do?
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that too in a little bit later. So let's just start off by saying thanks for coming to hang out. Hopefully we have a good, enjoyable podcast for you today. Try to keep it around an hour. But feel free to like, comment, sub. You have any questions go ahead.
Oh, they'll enjoy the podcast. Whether they get anything useful or any actual information out of us is another question.
Yeah, we could just be two dipshits talking about whatever, so who knows. But feel free to like, comment, sub, ask a question, hop in our Discord.
We'll have a link down in the bio for our Discord, I'm sure as well for both of our Twitches, in case you want to come check us live or come just hang out in the community that we're building.
Yeah. And the other thing too is we record this every Wednesday night. So if you're in the Discord, you are more than welcome to come hang out in the channel and maybe even ask a question live while we record.
Yeah.
So
I'm down for that.
Cool. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about, today I should say, technically the podcast is coming out at 8:00 on a Friday. So today's episode.
They get the idea.
Yeah. What we like to play. Kai and I have played a lot of Call of Duty in the past. Kai plays a lot more Call of Duty than I do. We also play Halo, along with a couple other FPS games. So we're big, just overall FPS lovers. We're looking at attempting to play a little bit more competitively. I think we have that skill range, if you will, to be competitive in tournaments and stuff. Yeah. So
yeah,
and that really comes along with any FPS games, we can really pick up the controller and rock regardless. You find you have to work on the finite movements of the actual specific game mechanics. Like
Oh
switching
yeah.
from COD to Apex isn't going to get you. It'll keep you pretty similar, but the more you play Apex, the
Well,
more
Gant,
the
you go. You go.
I was gonna say the more you play Apex, like the more game mechanics you pick up. So
Yeah, yeah, you definitely playing multiple different types of the same version of a game. So playing multiple different FPSs can definitely aid how you then go into the other game and then play, or how your gameplay evolves just from the other game. What things that you learned, if you learned movements, different mechanics, whatever the case may be, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, you're able to translate that into another game, or at least take the skills that you've learned in a previous game and apply it to another, and it can actually aid you. That's something I've always said all the time, is that you should never limit yourself to one type of video game. You should expand and try multiple types of the same game or same game type, because you might be able to learn things or pick up on things that you would have never have been able to if you didn't try a different version of the same type of game. So
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And even being in that same genre of video game, like I was saying, COD to Apex to Fortnite, whatever, you can
yeah.
transfer those skills pretty easily. It's just picking up the basic game mechanics and the more advanced movements of stuff, and then once you get that down, you're unstoppable in that sense. So
Oh yeah, because let's be honest, the movement from Apex to the movement of Halo is drastically different.
yeah, but the same mechanics apply when you're aiming. Like you
Oh,
gotta hit
of
him on the
course, yeah,
head.
yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta,
yeah.
like, you know what I mean. And it's just
Oh yeah, all the
knowing
yeah.
like what weapons do what damage to what type of people, and like stuff like that. So yeah,
I'm more
definitely.
talking along the lines of, like, how Apex, when you start sprinting, you have a delay when you start. It's like actually running. Like, you got to pick up your pace. Whereas
Yeah,
Halo, you're a fucking, excuse my language, but you're just a big hulking Spartan, and so
right.
you can just instantly run 20 miles an hour.
Yeah,
It doesn't take any second, and so. But that's all I really meant. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, so we're trying to get more into that competitive lifestyle. I've played for a couple of tournaments for the military, a couple with regiment, a couple with with Call of Duty, with Coast Guard Gaming. Had the opportunity to go play at the Complexity Gaming uh, headquarters in Texas. Our team ultimately finished second place with our internal placement tournament. And then one of our guys from that team that took second got picked up to go into the to the first place team to go play for that tournament to represent the Coast Guard against like Marine Corps Gaming and Army and Air Force, and it was fun. It was really fun watching them. They were really good players. Learned a lot that way. So Halo was something good. And just kind of like that. I don't know. It just kind of sparked my interest in playing competitively, whether it's for Halo, Call of Duty, Fortnite, whatever. Right? Um,
You've had more chances to actually meet actual competitive players and be in
yeah,
that world longer than I have, and so I'm sure it's kind of grown on you, and
one
having
hundred
those
percent.
opportunities makes you want to have more opportunities like that, and you definitely have been. I mean, the fact that you're a part of regiment and the fact that you are a part of your Coast Guard gaming team, I mean, it just goes to show how invested you are into trying to do something competitive, whether it's
Yeah,
we get to esports contracts tomorrow, or you just take the Coast Guard team all the way to the esports league.
yeah.
So,
Just that excitement level too. Like I used to be the complete opposite, where it was just like, oh, I don't want to play multiplayer. I'm scared to play with other people. People are going to shit on me. Now it's like, you know what? Let's go toe to toe and see who's better. I'm more of that, like, I'm not going to back down from a challenge. I'm not afraid of these guys.
which
And
is ridiculous because you've always been competitive. So I don't even know
yeah,
where that come from. You've always been into sports and always been trying to, just constantly improve yourself, if as long as it comes to something that is competitive. So it's funny
yeah.
to me to hear you say that you were hesitant about doing this. I know you, and
I was
you'll
super
definitely.
nervous. I'm not gonna lie. When we were talking about like doing our Halo tournament, right? I just kind of picked up a bunch of random guys and for that tournament, and that was stressful because I was playing with three other guys that I've never known,
Mhm.
and we were having to practice, and then it was like we were having to work on our comms a little bit, but then when we started actually playing and flowing, man, it was like it was perfect. And so just that,
Yeah.
like, just understanding how much time and effort goes into just preparing and playing with the same team, because we're so used to playing, if we play like randoms, that you got guys that are like you, you got your guys that are like every game is a different set of teammates, right?
Yeah.
So when you're playing with the same guys over and over and over again against teams that you know aren't communicating, like when you're doing matchmaking with a 4-man squad,
Yeah.
it's nice. But then throwing yourself in against someone who has the same amount of practice and teamwork, maybe even more than you, that's where the challenge comes in, and that's when it gets really fucking fun because you really start focusing on uh, your communication skills, your skill levels. You really zone in. The adrenaline starts kicking in, and that's probably the best Halo that I've ever played. We even played in a couple of like broadcasted Navy tournaments, and we didn't do too bad. We took third in one of them, but the broadcasters were talking about me, and I remember them talking about they were like hardcore Buzzman, which is my Xbox gamer tag. They were like, he's not getting a lot of kills. He's not doing much, right? But I was okay with that because I knew my role on the team wasn't to get kills. My role on the team was to try to be a primary damage dealer and to play the objective. And that's exactly what I did. If you look at my
So
damage, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so you were aiming to give your teammates a lot of assists.
Exactly. I led the team in assists. At least I tried to in most cases where you could see that I was on the field doing what needed to be done, making the call outs. But what the broadcasters don't hear is our level of communication. They don't hear that
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not just not involved. They just see the stats at the end of the game saying, oh, he didn't get a lot of kills. And that's not necessarily, there's no like teammate factor skill that you can pay attention to. So
Well, was it also one of those situations where when they did switch to your team, they could hear your guys' comms, or was it just completely just watching you?
it was
And
just completely watching. Yeah. Well, I
well,
mean,
that's
there
more
were
important
opportunities
too.
for them to like hop in and out of Discord channels. But for our team, they never really did. I think they
Yeah,
might have
that
done that for like a couple of minutes in one match, but they weren't like consistently there monitoring our chat, you know?
I guarantee if they had heard your guys' comms and had heard how on top of it you were with call outs and the team's objectives and everything, that they probably wouldn't have said those things, but they didn't again hear you guys or
Yeah.
have access or were in the channel at that time. So,
Yeah. That's
it's one
exactly
of
it.
those situations where I think, let's say in a few months we do get ourselves into some sort of semi-professional competitive team or a tournament, whatever you want to call it, or whatever you want to say, and they are able to hear our comms. I guarantee you they'll probably say the opposite. They'll be like that medic log frog guy or that Zach Loudon guy was on point with those call outs and he was really helping the team objectives with the call outs he was given and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where they just, they weren't around to see you in your zone in a sense.
Yeah. But like I said, that those playing with that team was just it was exciting.
Yeah,
Blood
it
was
got the
pumping and not
yeah.
only that, but then I got something to show for it too. Like I got to say, like, I got to represent, myself, I got to represent my my country, my service as the Coast Guard. It was fun, dude. It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. And then like going to work and being like, yo, I get to play in Halo, whatever, and everyone's like, oh, dude, that's fucking cool. So
Well, not
yeah,
only
it's a lot of
that, but
fun.
then like you get to go to work with other people in the Coast Guard and tell them I'm a part of the official Coast Guard Gaming League team.
Yeah, yeah, that makes it a lot because it's you're part of a team, like a legit team. It's not just it's
Oh,
something bigger than yourself,
yeah.
and that's fun, and that's fun, and
So
that's what I
you
hope
also,
that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you get a chance to represent something that you have a deep passion for and a deep love for, which is the Coast Guard,
Yeah,
in more ways than just through your career or just through your job. You're able to promote it and
yeah,
show love for it. It's a hobby that you actually enjoy. So I think that's also incredible.
and that's something that I hope that you and I get to share in the near future, playing on like duos teams or even get
Yeah,
mutters in it and playing a trios team or even getting Matt involved in playing a quads team, whatever the
we
case may
gotta
be.
find whatever rock he's hiding under.
Yeah, well, Matt, if you're listening to this, text me. I love you. Anyways, we miss you, Matt. Hope you come play video games with us soon.
Yeah.
Get well soon, Matt. Hopefully, yeah.
Is he sick? What's going
No,
on?
he's just recovering from the itis,
That's another pause in this
the
podcast
the
almost.
the limp dick itis.
Oh, well. I think I'd be out for a few months too then.
Nah, he's good. He's good. I
Just
actually just
just
saw him
throw
just
him
like a
some
month ago.
Viagra. He'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. You might need. Yeah, it's that whiskey dick.
Cialis. Oh,
he gave me a bottle of whiskey that I think he said he made it. Damn, it's good, dude. He's got like wood chips and stuff in it. Frecto. If
you
you
know,
come
it's
this
just
way for the hurricane, I'll let you have some. It's good. It's good.
little do you know, he just grabbed mulch from his garden and threw it in there.
Hey, maybe I trust that man. I trust that man with anything and everything, dude. He knows what he's doing.
As far as making alcohol, I agree. He knows. When he gets out of the Coast Guard, this is a little off topic, but he should become a distiller or start a brewing company.
I'm sure he will, or just making it on the side because it's really unless you make it in big bulk, it doesn't take up a lot of time. So
Yeah,
if he just makes little batches of it,
yeah,
I'll buy some.
Doesn't he have to technically obtain a liquor's license to sell?
That's not for us to decide. I'm not the authority.
I'm clearing my hands.
Anyways, Matt, we love you. We miss you. Come back and play with us. So back on topic though. Yeah, having a nice, a nice team and an opportunity for us, you and I, to play and represent ourselves and just say like we beat whatever and get our name out there, right? One, because that's going to help us in confidence and say, yeah, we're beating and we're winning and we're beating people and we're winning in competitions. Two, it's going to help our Twitch streams grow because now we're putting our name out there and now we have proof that we're good. People can come by and watch us play. And three, again, putting our name out there for bigger, teams and people to watch us and see us and maybe see us grow and maybe see some potential in it. Maybe one day we get signed to a contract, or maybe one day we just get picked up for to hang out with another big streamer or whatever, or collaborate with another streamer. Or maybe the roles reversed. Maybe we become big and we can find someone else to bring in our team. Who knows? The possibilities are endless, but that's one way for us that I feel that we can expand our community, bring people into our community, our Discord, come hang out, and also hang out during our individual streams and just watch this game together.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And not to backtrack or anything, but I definitely think there's major esports teams that will hire and sign streamers that don't even compete. They just are great content, and they know that signing them to that team will bring more exposure, more attention to the team as well as that person.
Yeah.
And so it might be one of those situations too where maybe we just blow up and don't even necessarily become competitive players, but we get signed anyways because of our streams or our content, or who knows, even the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just but the more opportunity that we give ourselves to grow, because then who's to say like 3 years or 5 years or whatever, when we do pick up our niche, like our podcast isn't a thing anymore, our Twitch streams may not be a thing anymore, but or whatever the case may be, we find what we're good at and we stick to it. Maybe it's just making little YouTube videos, or maybe it is Twitch streaming, or maybe it's this podcast, and then we focus on that.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, I definitely think the outreach of podcasts and just putting ourselves on a different platform and giving ourselves exposure in another way than just the ways that we have is already a good start.
Yeah, I agree. And this is one of the biggest first steps, just making that initial jump and saying, this is what I'm going to do. And it'll get better over time, right? Like we'll try something different. We'll try, who knows, right? And then of course, like community feedback is a huge part of it too.
As the podcast grows, I'm sure our production value will start to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And,
or just our streams, anything.
Right. And I mean, that's kind of like a main goal right now for the podcast. Bring people into the community to show them what we like to stream,
Yeah.
And then if they like our stuff, they hang out with our community. They like us for who we are, not necessarily what we like to stream, but because this is us off stream, right? We're a little bit different. We're not sitting behind a controller or a keyboard, or in my case, sometimes I play iRacing, so behind a wheel. We're sitting here just talking about what we like, the people that we are. Yeah. This is where people are going to come in and see us behind the stream and understand what we do in our real turn, like our real lives, stuff that we don't really talk about off camera, stuff that we don't talk about on camera, but now that we're talking about off camera. And that's where people are going to be like, I like, this is where, I like this person's values. I like this person's ideas. I'm going to start hanging up around that person, because streaming isn't just about being good at a video game. Yeah, you do get followers, but you get consistent viewers by the kind of person you are, the kind of stream you like, and it's not for everybody, right? Your stream is different from my stream, so and
I think
everybody's stream is different.
I think an easy way to put what you're saying is that us doing this podcast will allow people to have an opportunity to connect with us more than just on our streams. If
Yeah,
they see this podcast, they can go, okay, well, I kind of relate to these guys. I'm kind of just, one of these guys. And the more people that relate to us and can come in here and, you know, vibe with us and feel the things that we're saying, it can't do anything but propel us upwards and help
yeah,
us.
yeah. It's definitely not going to hurt us. I mean,
And you are very good at fostering and building a community, like a small community. You do. It might be a small one, but you have a small community on Twitch.
yeah, yeah, about 180 some followers, I think. I don't know the
But
number
you
off the
also
top
have
of my head, but
consistent people that come in and watch you too.
100% I do. And that's what makes this fun. Having those people to constantly come in, and they may not be there every stream, right? Just constantly coming in, like Sully, like Krista, like
Hmm.
Jenna. People that are in on every stream. You pop in on some streams. Mutters is there on some streams. It's just nice to see those people there and engage with me in some way, shape, or form. Like
Yeah.
Sully, he talks a lot more and he subs more than Krista does. She just comes in and she likes to just hang out and watch my stream. Jenna likes to talk. You just like to come in and report for duty because you're a moderator. Mutters likes to scare the shit out of me with those stream scares. So like everybody plays a different part, and I love every aspect of it, and it's always different. And that's nice to have that that engagement with people, because then it's not just me playing a video game; it's me talking to the community that are watching me play a
Yeah.
video game. You know.
Yeah.
So
People
yeah,
that you are able to have a, what is the best way to describe it? Just it's like a way for you to have a heart to heart's not the greatest.
yeah, I
I think you
understand what you're
understand,
saying.
like a
Yeah,
heart to heart with your community, and
yeah,
they can really feel how you feel, and that's important. I mean, you
hundred
don't want to be
percent.
disconnected from your audience. You want to be able to know how your audience feels, and
And there's been times where some of my audience members have opened up to me about personal shit, and it's like I wasn't expecting this, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation because you know how I am. I mean, I'm a corpsman in the military. I love helping people. So that's
yeah,
another like great thing that I hopefully instill trust in people, that they can come talk to me and just
yeah,
vent. And it's like, dude, what stays on the stream happens on the stream. You're going to type out your chat, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to have a moment. But as soon as the stream ends and the chat is gone, the chat is gone. You don't
yeah.
have to worry about that lingering out there. You don't have to worry about your personal business hanging out somewhere in the cloud. All you have to know is that I can offer you advice, or just offer you like a hug, a virtual hug or whatever, and be like, it's okay. Let's talk about your shit. Let's make sure we're good and move on. And then you have a better day. Maybe
And
tomorrow, maybe another week, whatever.
an easy way to another, I guess, to say this again, another easy way to put this is that, like, if your stream or my stream can go and make someone's day, someone who's having a bad day, just give them 5 minutes of brightness or 5 minutes of happiness, then I will feel like I have succeeded in what I am trying to do, which
Yeah.
is just bring joy and happiness to people and positivity, and show them, you know, obviously my, like, great gaming skills, of course, but like just show them that they have a place that they don't need to feel that, like, they don't need to worry about being judged or anything, because I'm not going to
Carefree
judge
zone,
anyone.
judgment
Yeah,
zone off, carefree zone. Exactly. Yeah, I
yeah.
totally agree. And sometimes the other I don't know if it's like a positive or negative. It could be a pro and a con. You may not know. Your video as you're streaming could be live, and someone could pop in just because they found you on Twitch, and they
Yeah.
could just chill there, not say anything, not follow you, do nothing, and just have a laugh because you and I are fucking around in Warzone and I keep
Being
breaking my
doofuses.
legs. They
Yeah.
have a laugh, and then they have to go do something, and they totally forget about who we are. But we'll never know that. They'll never find us again. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's just going to happen. And
Well,
I'm
yeah,
okay with that.
yeah. I mean, I think that happens with all types of content. Some content is for some people, other content is not for other people. So we'll definitely have strays and stragglers, and
Yeah.
we'll have those silent. We'll also have those silent supporters who never talk in the chat, that never say a word, but are always there watching us. They may donate, they may support us on social media platforms, but they never talk ever. Like they
Yeah.
never hop in the chat or anything. Those silent supporters.
A million percent. Yeah. And those are the people that we need to thank, because those are the people that are keeping us engaged. Those are the people that we're doing it for, like,
Yeah,
and
well,
it's in some cases it's just a number. It's just a viewer's number. Like,
yeah.
now I know I've got 3 people watching me. I know one of them's my wife and one of them's probably Sully. Who's the third? And it's just some random person who, it doesn't matter who it
I
is.
would imagine it's me.
All right. I mean, but you know what I mean? Like,
I do,
whatever.
yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
do, I
saying? Like,
do.
that's just that fun part, that fun aspect.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna drop some links down in the description of this podcast for our Twitch channels, like you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
I'm also gonna have them like ticking as we talk here, so that way they're kind of flowing through and they're fresh in the brain. So
yeah.
but yeah, and then I'm also going to include the Discord chat as well. So like Kai said, small community on my Twitch channel, only 180 some followers, a lot less in the Discord. But I've made this Discord to try to be a collection of information for certain games. So feel free to come join the Discord, come chat with us.
We also got to start somewhere.
So yeah, exactly, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and now, granted, this Discord has been like live for like a year or some change, and I've been kind of like making tweaks, revamps, and whatever, just to like find what works and what doesn't. I've deleted a lot of game channels because I just went heavy on games that I didn't even play. But yeah, so if you join the Discord and you're like, hey, I want to play this game and find more people, let me know, or let Kai know. We'll make a channel. We'll make whatever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we'll get it hooked up. So and if you just want to come hang out with us and talk to us off to the side, come talk to us.
Yeah, we have our channels there for that. Yeah.
So and then you can also have the benefit of coming to watch us on Wednesday nights record this podcast, like Mutters is right now. Thanks for coming to hang out, Mutters. I see you down there in the chat, my dude. All right, so we talked about the games that we like to play. We talked about our streams. We talked about our little communities. Let's get into some gaming news about our favorite games, right? I mean, our big one is COD. We have some upcoming games coming, or a game coming out here in October, which is a big win that we think, especially in your opinion, we think for Warzone with the Omni movement coming out in Black Ops 6.
I hope it is. We'll see how it's integrated, but I hope it is.
Yeah, we have new weapons coming out. It's the last season for Modern Warfare 3.
Season 6, yep.
Yep. So then we'll move on to Black Ops 6 at the end of October 24th, 25th, if I'm thinking.
I think it's the 26th or 28th that comes out.
Could be around there. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll fix that later. But yeah, so yeah, and then another, back to that competitive play. The CDL wrapped up in July, so we're a little bit, a little late out of that, but the teams are still having like unofficial competitions between each other, games and stuff.
I think they did have one last competition in August, if I'm not mistaken.
They did the Call of Duty League Championship.
Warzone, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly what was it.
Yeah.
But the CDL League, CDL will pick up back in January again. So let's cheer on for my favorite team, the Minnesota Rocker. Hopefully they can pick it up and get into the playoffs this next coming season.
Also, because we got to throw them some love. They did the Call of Duty Endowment Bowl, which was a competition for veterans.
Yeah, and that's actually something that regiment players and Coast Guard gaming players could have had an opportunity to go play in, and that's where they put you 2v2 and they team you up with a big streamer. So that's a huge way for you to showcase your skill against the potential other streamer on the other team, and to also get some insight on the streaming world itself. So yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
It is, yes.
But yeah, so I'll put a link down below for the CDL schedule. It's already done for the season, but that's just a link for you to go check out for the next season when that's live, sometime in January. I don't think they have a date released yet, but yeah. So let's go into let's talk about some Black Ops 6. Kai, you were able to play the Black Ops 6 beta. You got to test out the new gunplay. You got to test out the new Omni movement.
Yes.
What did you think about all that? Tell me your thoughts about Omni movement, weapon gameplay, and new maps, and just overall new Black Ops in general.
So the game feels, and if you played Black Ops Cold War, you'll know what I mean. It feels like a Black Ops game, which the how do I describe it? The gun recoils and the way they fire is gonna feel a lot different from the Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer Call of Duty games like MW2 and MW3. That being said, they still felt great. They didn't feel like completely out of the water of like something you had to relearn, and that it was going to be drastically different from the other games, which was nice. The Omni movement I feel like is the best addition that they're bringing to the game so far. The movement is absolutely spectacular. You can slide cancel in any direction. You can now when you're prone, you are not limited to slow looking left or right because you're laying on your stomach. It's just like real life where if you were laying flat on your stomach and you needed to look directly behind you, you would just roll over onto your back. And so they've made a lot of new changes to the Omni movement that I think are very, very good, and that will, I hope they're integrated well, but of course we will have to see because we know how Call of Duty integrations go.
Yeah.
But the Omni movement was great. The guns felt fantastic. The maps were a little, I don't want to call the maps were great. What I will say is the spawn points, and I feel like every COD game has this problem, and maybe it's just being put into a lobby with sweaty players where they're constantly running around the map, so it's forcing the spawn points to constantly change. But the spawn points don't feel great at all. They are
Yeah.
not. They still need to work on them quite a bit. But
Do you
other
think
than
that
that,
was more attributed to faster movement and sweatiness, or was that just smaller map size?
could have been attributed to both factors, both sweatiness and small map size, forcing players to constantly rotate around the map or switch sides. That could have had a lot to do with the spawn points feeling so iffy, but at the same time, I feel like the spawn points in every Call of Duty game have always been a major problem, and I think it's just something that they have yet to work out to find something that is set in stone. Every Call of Duty game feels like if you run over to the other side of the map and you're the only person over there, it's going to switch the entire team. And
Yeah.
it
Okay.
shouldn't be like that. It should be like a majority of the team on one side of the map forces a spawn point change,
Yeah.
whereas it constantly is just like you. It could just be you. Your entire team could be back at your spawn point, and just you run over there, and it forces the change. And then all of a sudden, you have enemies spawning behind your teammates.
And remember, now that was a tactic too in some of the tournaments that you and I played a long time ago back in the old Modern Warfare. That was a tactic that we picked up on really quick. It's called flipping the spawns,
Yeah.
where you can get the preferred spawn based off of what the next objective is, like in Hardpoint, so you
Oh
spawn
yeah.
closer. And that was a
Yeah.
tactic
That
that a
was.
lot of pros pick up and try to use in games where you respawn. Now, in some game modes where you play like search and destroy and whatnot, where you only get one life, it makes zero difference. But in games where you respawn, that makes the world of difference because now you're not running all the way across the map.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I like that tactic because it can be used as an advantage if you know what you're doing with it. But
Exactly,
if
yeah.
it was just like not a glitch or not a bug, but just a bad game mechanic, that would be different. But
Yeah, very different,
since
yeah.
it has some kind of pro advantage to it, you can have a pro versus a con. The pro of that would be to help your team, if you can figure out the spawns. But like you said too, they may change it to where it's a majority thing, or in some cases where it's just one guy. And like I said, this goes back to our whole playing on a team where you have communication. If you're not communicating with your team and you're the only person trying to flip the spawn, and you've got two enemies or three enemies on that one side that are trying to protect the spawn because they've got the
Yeah.
preferred spawn, and you aren't having backup coming over to you because everyone's focused on the objective only, that could be where it comes in as a con because you don't have the communication. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean that if you're gonna try and sit there and actually play in a tournament, you need to have comms on point anyways. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
it's almost I don't want to sound rude saying this, but it's almost idiotic to think that someone could go into a tournament without any comms and come out on top. I mean, it's so important to communicate with your team, especially if you're trying to play in a professional manner, especially against people who are also communicating and people who are on the same skill level as you. You are essentially just asking to be completely thrown in the dirt if you think that you're going to be able to outsmart a player who's communicating with his team, and you're not doing that at all.
Yeah. And back to like that communication aspect, right? It's a very big deal. And not all random games are no communication. Sometimes you get some guys that are actually trying to communicate well, and you got other guys that are just trying to call your mom a hoe. But regardless of the point, but you know, sometimes they're listening and they actually might try to do what you say if you're the one that's like, all right, hey, go here and do that. So
It mostly happens in Warzone. In multiplayer,
yeah,
I hear most people telling me to go stuff it up myself, but you know,
yeah, yeah,
Warzone, you'll get those people too, but for the most part, people are trying to pull out wins in Warzone, and in Warzone you have to pretty much communicate. Although I
yeah.
do have quite a lot of fun jumping into quads games solo, or just like with a random team and
Just
being in an
going off,
Xbox party alone or being in Discord alone and just not communicating.
ball out, dude. That's it. And
It
you
kind
have
of
the
helps.
ability to do that shit. Like I need the team because like I said, back to my like team role, right? I do a lot of damage, I play a lot of objectives, have a good communication. You just ball the fuck out, man. Like you're like 4-man squad, done, got him, dude. Down one,
I
down two,
wouldn't
down
say
three, and
all
I'm like,
that.
what am I doing, man? I'm just reviving you at that point. Like,
I wouldn't
uh,
say all that. I would say that the only reason that I can play so well when I don't hear game comms or game chat is because it's almost not getting in my head. If I just have
yeah,
complete silence and I don't hear anyone, I'm able to get in the zone. But if I
yeah,
have some 10-year-old kid fucking, excuse my language, screaming at his mom, and then I got another guy over here who's playing the drums, and you hear some dude over there arguing with his girlfriend on the phone, it's gonna throw all
yeah,
of my strategy and all of my focus in the game completely out of whack. And
yeah,
I
100%.
can't. I can sit there and communicate with the team that I'm playing with, no problem. But if I'm hearing enemy comms, that will really start to, and
Yeah,
maybe that's something I need to work on because I do need to get better at listening to enemy comms and hearing those call outs and stuff. But
yeah,
I find it so much easier to just cancel all of that out and just put myself in the zone and try and listen to footsteps essentially instead of
yeah.
comms or call outs and stuff. So,
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that, in Warzone that the, proximity chat for enemies can actually be beneficial because you could down a guy and then if they're talking like he's over here, he's over here. Well, now
yeah.
now they're communicating. Now
Yeah.
you know that okay, maybe this 1v3 isn't the best idea. I need another teammate over here that I can help out or they can help me out to get the next two guys down or whatever the case may be. So that's one thing where again you turn a con into a pro because you can listen to that enemy communication
Hmm.
and kind of focus in on that. And I pick up a lot on that, and I try to relay that to
You're
you
better
so
at
that
that
way,
than I am.
yeah, I really try to pay attention to that like little bit of calm because you only get like what a second when they die that you know where they're at. Well, in the old Warzone, but in the new Warzone, you can hear them if they're still alive, which I think is crazy. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe that changes in Black Ops 6. Who knows? That would be kind of cool. Keep that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always have fun having enemy I mean, sometimes it's
Yeah.
fun to hear the enemy comms and everything, and especially with that new Omni movement coming in, because now you can take people hostage and use them as human shields.
Oh
You
yeah.
can now whisper into their ear, and they can't say anything back to you, but you can just sit there and whisper into their ear and tell them stuff while you got them, and you're just holding them around.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm sure I'm gonna be getting called quite a few suggestive names while I get
Yeah.
held hostage, and when the new Omni movement comes.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
just
it's
just quit the game at that point. Don't. No.
I did that the other day. I was playing and I was starting to get executed, and I said, "Nope, not dealing with this," and I instantly quit.
Yeah. Yeah, you just ruin their day instead. That's funny. So,
They're not getting that satisfaction out of me.
man, that's funny.
But yeah,
All right. So, we talked about Omni movement. We talked about the maps. What did you think about the guns? Like, what did you think about the gunplay, the time to kill, stuff like that?
the time to kill seems longer than Warzone, or not Warzone, MW2 and MW3. In MW2 and MW3 multiplayer, it feels like you can get killed uh insanely fast.
Okay.
Um, with Black Ops 6, I found, now don't get me wrong, it could still happen, but I found more opportunities to get out of situations where I was being shot at in and be able to regroup and figure myself out. Um, the gunplay, same thing. Like I said earlier, the recoil patterns feel different, but they still feel solid. They still feel good. The guns all feel great as far as I know. Now, that will probably change on launch because they gathered a lot of data from how people were using the guns and how much damage they were doing. And I'm sure they're going to nerf things. I'm sure they're going to tweak things. Like, I can almost guarantee you the sniper that was in the beta is getting nerfed because I absolutely was disgusting with that thing and I was laying people out with it. And I guarantee you that it's just one of those things that they're going to completely remove, and
Yeah.
it'll be sad, but that's a part of a beta is for them to collect data like that. So
Yeah.
um The guns all felt great. As far as could see, they all, and the ones that I did use, because there was a few that I didn't get a chance to use. They all felt great. Movement was good. Maps looked incredible. I love the design of the maps. They looked amazing. Just the spawn points. The only negative
Yeah. Okay.
thing I can really say was the spawn points. I will say this is a little bit of a personal gripe, but I was playing the Black Ops 6 beta and I didn't even have my headset on, and I got reported for crash talking somehow, and it got accepted. Like, I actually got a
Really?
warning, and I don't know what that was about. So hopefully that gets fixed, because I'm not trying to get a chat ban for not even chatting.
Well,
But
maybe that's why. Maybe they reported you because you weren't communicating with the team.
very interesting.
Ah, see how the turntables.
I didn't know you could trash talk using silence.
Was that what it was for? Do you know that the
Yeah,
reporting
so
was for trash talking?
I still have the report in Call of Duty, and if I go and look, it is a code of conduct for language. And
Interesting.
I don't think I've talked to one single person that entire beta, so it's very weird that I got reported.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got to keep an eye out for that because I know that they COD really cracked down on
Like,
their speech and stuff for the last
yeah.
year.
Like I said, it's a personal gripe. It doesn't really affect me all that much. I just
Yeah.
found it weird, and I almost wonder if it was a bug from the beta.
Could have been. Yeah, we'll never
That's
know.
what yeah.
We'll just see,
So
like, if that, in the future, if that happens again, then you're like, all right,
I
this
log
is.
into Black Ops 6 and I'm completely banned.
We're gonna have to send a
But
letter to Activision to be like, excuse you,
they're
fix
like, nope,
this.
nope, you had your chance. You played the beta.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yep.
that's funny. Well, hopefully they don't accidentally like report me instead of you because their names are pretty similar, both hardcore. So they're like, it was one of the hardcores, and they banned me, and I'm like, I didn't even play that game. Like, how did I get banned?
I think alphabetically, with how many other hardcore usernames there are, there's probably thousands upon thousands of other users before they get to. Because if
Potentially.
you think about where Pelican is versus Buzzman alphabetically,
That's a very good point. But P's and B's kind of look alike, So they could be like, is it a P? They type it in, they're like, nah. They type in a B, they're like, oh, that's him, Buzzman right there. Yep, ban him.
Buzzman with a P.
Buzzman with a P. Buzzman. Buzzman. Say that 10 times fast.
Maybe I shouldn't speak out of things that I don't directly know, but I would imagine if that happens, someone's probably getting fired.
Potentially.
Maybe.
Maybe they're like, you fucked up. Yeah.
It may depend on the severity of the punishment. Now, if you like banned the account altogether and there was nothing wrong with it, then maybe. But if you just gave them like a little 2-week suspension, may get looked over.
Yeah, maybe. So. All right. So what else do you have to say about the beta? Do you have any bad things to say about the beta besides the spawn point?
I think the only other gripe that I have to say about the beta is that the first day that I played, I got to play about 8 hours, or it was like 5 to 8 hours, and then the next day, I tried to log in and my game crashed. So I was like, okay, I'll go back in, and I would go to the home screen and I would click the Black Ops beta. I'd get to the Black Ops beta menu screen, and then it would crash again, and it would tell me it was a system error. And I
Interesting.
had to go and completely uninstall all of Call of Duty, not just the Black Ops beta, but all of Call of Duty. That meant MW2, MW3, everything, and reinstall it just so I could play the game. And that was a little bit of a gripe. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about probably over 500 gigabytes of data. So
Yeah.
wasn't the
That
most fun
sucks.
experience.
I can't even
definitely
imagine. I mean, like, it takes hours just to download an update, let alone the entire games, because you include 4 different games. You got Modern Warfare 2, 3, Warzone, and Black Ops 6 all in one install.
So thankfully, pretty much. It sucked. That's
Yeah.
all that's all I can really say about it, is it sucked. Thankfully, it didn't seem like it installed too slow when I had to go and reinstall it. But at the same time, I think it was like 3 hours, and 3 hours is 3 hours. That definitely
Yeah.
sucks. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't know if I have any other gripes. Maybe an optimization gripe about their updates being so big,
Oh my
which
god,
they
yeah.
already addressed that they're working on. So I can't really say anything about that, because maybe it'll get changed next week. Maybe we'll start getting 10 gigabyte updates like
Yeah.
every other game.
What'd you think of the music? Was it good?
Yeah, man. The main menu theme song actually went pretty hard. It was I could sit there and just bop my head to it.
Okay.
It was pretty good.
It like 007 GoldenEye hard or
I wouldn't say it was that hard, but it
okay, all right.
definitely got you amped up to play.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, well that's good to know. All right, cool. And then the last question I have for you is weapon customization. What did you think of that about that?
It was almost exactly the same as the other games. I
Okay.
mean, it's
I
I
feel
will
like they
say
kept like the
they
same UI and stuff for it to try to keep it very similar
for
to
the most
integrate it to Warzone easy.
I mean, it's a little different, but for the most part, like, everything unlocks almost essentially the same way. The only thing I didn't see, and it could have been because it was a beta, was I didn't see any armory unlocked, so you didn't have to complete daily challenges to get
Okay.
special accessories for your gun unlocked.
Okay.
Everything has seemed to unlock in a row. So if you had like a row of grips, you would unlock the first one, then the second one, then the third one, and then the fourth one, and then the fifth one. It wasn't one of those things where it's like, okay, you have the bottom one unlocked because you did something, but you still have to work through the rest of them. It,
Yeah.
it kept
Okay.
it very linear in a sense, I guess.
Okay.
So that felt good. I did like that. Uh, the weapon customization felt great. I mean, there wasn't much to go over because it was a beta again, so you only got one charm. I think there was only one blueprint if you didn't pre-order the limited edition that you got to try out. Um, but other than that, I mean, it pretty much felt like every other COD game. There wasn't
Okay.
much that was too different there.
Okay. Good. That's good. I'm excited for it. I think the COD community is itching for a new game. It's been 2 years since the last one,
I think it's only
right?
been a year.
Has it been a year? Maybe I'm
I
just
mean,
tripping the fuck
MW3
out.
came out last
Oh,
year,
that's
so I
right.
would say,
MW3. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't
yeah.
play MW3 that much. I was thinking more like, like Warzone and big changes to Warzone because when was it MW3 or was it MW2 that they made like mass? Maybe it was MW3. Maybe I'm just mixing up my entire timeline where they added like
Well,
new movement and stuff to Warzone because they incorporated basically
oh
the entire
yeah,
game.
so slide canceling wasn't in MW2, and then they went ahead and
Okay.
added slide canceling in MW3 because there was such a
Okay.
player backlash.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But
I'm
other
just
than
ready to
that,
see how it all changes over into Warzone because that's what
it's
realistically
either
that's
gonna
probably
be a
what I'm going to be playing
disaster
more.
or it's gonna be perfect, and I'm leaning more towards the earlier option than the latter
Yeah. Okay.
because of their past. But hopefully, it's really good. I really
I
hope
mean,
it's
and
good.
every game has their day one issues, but COD
Yeah,
is
no,
one of the biggest ones where you have a bigger player base. It's going to be more noticeable because a lot of people are going to be like, this game sucks on day one. And it's like, no, every game sucks on day one. This one is just one that you didn't want to suck, and they're working on changing it. So give them some time, give them some credit. They just spent X amount of years developing this game. Give them a day to fix something, like
well,
chill the fuck out.
uh, if you think about how big the COD player base is, the griping and the amount of complaining will be tenfold versus any other game because
A
the
hundred
the
percent.
player base is just so huge.
Yeah. And just the smallest mistake gets blown out of proportion. Now, granted, the COD
Some of those,
the COD developers are really good at fixing what the community wants fixed.
for the
Yeah,
most part, sometimes it takes a little too long for them to implement those changes.
but it's tough to follow, and it's tough to just say "Yeah, we can fix everything that the community wants because some of the community want one thing and other half of the community wants something else completely different, and they can't have both because one's going to negate the other. So it's just that, but it's that ability to listen and say like, all right, we hear your reasoning, we hear whatever, we'll work on it.
Yeah.
But I will say though, like you said, it takes a little while. They've been talking about making their downloads smaller for years.
Well, they also have like 10, 12 plus studios that work on the game
Yeah,
with dev teams that are well over hundreds of people. So it's also another one of those situations where it's like you have plenty of resources to get
they
this
do.
done.
But it's also too, you start throwing all those dev teams and start splitting them up, they're going to start getting a lack of communication with each other.
Yeah, I mean that's actually something that I do wonder is how well the communication is between the Call of Duty studios. If
They
Treyarch is
probably
just
they probably say it's really good, but the people that are on the ground working on the game are not the ones communicating with each other. It's your team leads and your supervisors and your, people in charge of that team that aren't talking to the other teams.
well, Activision will always come out and say that the communication is great, but yeah, it's exactly like you said. Now, how those individual companies or studios go about communicating is another story.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because let's be honest, Sledgehammer Infinity Ward games feel very different from the Treyarch Call of Duty games, and it's
Yeah,
literally the same game, but Treyarch has always had a certain feel to their games that Infinity Ward and poor Sledgehammer, Sledgehammer just they don't have. But then again, Infinity
Yep.
Ward has a certain spark to their games that the other games don't have, and I guess you could say it a little bit about Sledgehammer, although some of the most controversial or most disliked Call of Duties have mostly been made by Sledgehammer.
Yeah. And I don't know. If that's the case, and that was kind of one of our talking points that I kind of wrote up for one of these podcasts to bring up was the the successes and failures of having multiple studios create one game. Right? It's like
Yeah.
if you let 3 different studios make a Skyrim, how different would they be? Yeah, they'd be Skyrim because they're called Skyrim, but would they be 3 different games? The answer would be yes. You know,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be they wouldn't be noticeable. They wouldn't be really noticeable changes. They wouldn't be like massive game mechanics, massive graphical differences. It would be the subtle things, the movement, the inventory, the UIs, things like that. That
Just the way how the game plays in general.
exactly right. Sometimes you've got different engines and whatnot. So, and that's just, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I think, having a new COD game every single year will get boring. For me, it has been, because it's like playing the new Madden every year. Yeah, what's the point of playing Madden 25 when I can play Madden 24 still? All you're gonna do
Yeah.
is add a new character or a career path, or next year you're gonna add another, road to the show, or well, that's baseball, but
Oh yeah, they definitely
whatever,
need to.
right?
They definitely need to start spanning out the time in between their games. I mean,
Yeah,
releasing a Call of Duty game every year, I understand from a financial decision probably looks amazing, and they are just raking in the money. But from a consumer perspective and from a player perspective, it is, unless you're giving us a truly a AAA product and that is polished and it runs perfectly on day one, a new COD game every year does not. It's it will keep a certain player base going, but most people are gonna feel like yourself, and they're gonna get
yeah,
tired of it, or it's gonna become boring, or it's gonna become one of those things where it's like, oh, another COD game, oh, another COD game, and so unless they find a way to keep it innovative and fresh in between games every year, then
yep,
maybe they could pull that off. But let's face it, every year COD games get one or two maybe considered major changements, but usually are like small changes.
yeah,
And that's their big show off for the game. They'll be like,
yeah.
look at this new mechanic we did. Isn't this amazing? And it's like, yeah, it is amazing, but you only added this to the game. Like, there's nothing else that's really new.
Yeah, if you were to take
So,
out Modern Warfare 2 and 3, like I get it, they remade the whole franchise back from the original Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3
yeah, they
games,
rebooted it.
which was cool. I loved that because I played those original games. If you were to take out Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and jump from Modern Warfare to Black Ops 6, it would be an incremental, amazing change. But since you're doing that every year where you're just making little changes to the game, one
Mhm.
year it's getting rid of slide canceling, the next year it's bringing it back, and then next year, next month, they're bringing in Omni movement. They're just changing slide canceling and movement just a little bit more. But if you get rid of the 2 games where it's changed a little bit, now you've got a bigger gap and a bigger change where it's no game for 3 years. And because let's be real, Warzone hasn't changed in 2 years. Warzone is the same
No,
game.
not really.
The only thing
Yeah,
they're adding is movement, the engine update, and guns, camos, basic
yeah.
stuff, right? But the game itself has been there since, I think actually the new Warzone 2.0 came out with Modern Warfare 2. But
It did a few months after, yeah.
yeah, but if you cut out, the middleman of Modern Warfare 3, it's not a new game. Warzone is still the same, and it will stay the same when Black Ops comes out. It will still be Warzone. It will still
Hmm.
be, just a couple of changes to movement, a couple of changes to the guns, new gun additions, new metas every season. There's new fucking metas, right?
Yeah.
It's like every 2 weeks they got a buff and this and that, and the metas change. So all of that, it's the same game, and then you're just adding a couple of those little changes in at a time.
Yeah. And not to rag on the studios too hard, because I know that those developers, for the most part, I'm sure there's developers out there that don't give a absolute shit about what they're making. But for the most part, I know most of the developers actually care about what they're making. It is a lot of the problems that are occurring in this game could very well be related, and probably are related, to strict development times set by their publisher or Activision. When you only have a year to make a game, and games are becoming more and more intricate and harder to develop, you are going to run into more bugs, you're going to run into more problems, and it's going to be harder for you to deliver a finished, polished product by the end of that year when video games or making video games is not as simple as it was 20 years ago,
Yeah.
And even then, back then, there were still cases where people needed over a year to develop something, even with it being a lot more simplified. It's just one of those situations where if you want to deliver something that is truly going to make the fans happy or show people that this is worth continuing to flow money into, you need to deliver the best product that you can. And when you force strict time crunches on studios, they will never be able to deliver on that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, and
And we saw
you
that
know,
in two recent games that came out. We saw that with Battlefield.
yeah,
Battlefield kind of
2040.
flopped. 2042 flopped at the start. Now, granted, the game is still fun to play. I love playing Battlefield. Don't take that away, and don't. If you've never played Battlefield before, 2042, go play the game. It's fun, right? You're gonna enjoy it. There's no new content for it anymore. There was no campaign. There was never a campaign planned. They had a battle royale planned, or I think they actually decided to skip the battle royale because they tried that new hazard zone.
Yeah, it
Um,
was a looter, like a looter extraction type
yeah.
game mode.
So I mean that game, and that was again a rushed game by EA, which we know is not a very historically good company with meeting demands and the product quality. They're gonna meet the timeline, but the quality of product that they're gonna deliver is past Star Wars Battlefront was not up to par. Star Wars
Oh,
Battlefront was
Battlefront
like
2 was one of the most disastrous launches that not only DICE but EA has ever had in their entire,
yeah, and
career
I'm
or history as a company.
exactly, and that's why I'm saying like the last good game that I can remember that they released was the Battlefront remake because Battlefront 2 just shit the bed and it was
Yeah.
absolutely horrendous.
Well, I would, it had a rocky launch, but I would argue and say that both Battlefield 1 and 5 ended up being amazing games. It
Yeah,
took a
yeah,
little too long for the changes that needed to be made to those games to be implemented. I mean, some of those changes didn't come till a year later, and after that,
yep.
you might have lost a major portion of that fan base that was dedicated to playing that game. And so it took a little too long, but I would argue and say like DICE might always have a rocky launch, but they usually polish their games up pretty well. I mean,
They
look
do.
at the state of 2042. 2042 went from an absolute bombshell disaster into a pretty damn decent shooter. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I have fun on Battlefield. All the problems and issues that I had at the very beginning of the game, especially with hit registration and server problems and latency, that's all been fixed. It's all gone. They added a whole bunch of new content to the game. Granted, a little too late, which is another problem they have, but they added that content and it feels awesome.
yeah.
We'll
And
have to see
and
how the next one goes, though.
and the other side of that too, I agree with you. It is easy to argue for them. I'm not like I
Oh
said. I
no,
love the
no,
game. I'm
yeah,
not trying to argue against them for sure.
no, 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 yeah,
But it's the content level. EA's has a history of lack of content release following the initial release of the game. Right.
yeah.
Battlefield 5, same situation. Battlefield 1, same situation. Battlefield 2042, they let the game go for, it's been what, 3-4 years? 5 years, I think. I don't even know how old the game is. But
Came out, I think, in
it's
2021, if I'm not mistaken.
so not even 4 years. So, but the game, they were like, all right, we're done. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they've cut ties with it and they're like, we're done making content for this game. We're going to focus on the new one.
Yeah.
Which, if they're going to have any chance of redeeming themselves, it is putting all resources into a brand new game. One, to make a battle royale game because they are way behind the ball in the battle royale. They tried it with Firestorm, that flopped. It was fun to
Which is
play.
sad because it was actually a great battle royale mode.
Yeah, which I had a lot of fun playing
Yeah.
that battle royale mode, but it was something I think they just tried to put their foot in the door in the battle royale scene, but they didn't do it the right way. They tried something different and it didn't work, but I can't fault them for trying.
Well, they
So
I don't mean to cut you off. I just was gonna say they also decided to add that mode at the very end of the lifespan of Battlefield 5.
yeah,
Like, I think it was like they had like only a few more major updates to the game before they were gonna end the live service to it and continue to work on the next Battlefield game, and that's
yeah.
when they decided to add Firestorm. And it was like, wow, we're getting one of the greatest additions at the very end of the game.
Yeah, and then not only that, but then they stopped making content, like you just said. They stopped making content altogether, so it got boring
Oh
really
yeah.
quickly
I
because
think the map had 2 updates. There was a dome that was added, and there was a
yep,
tower, and that
yep,
was it.
yeah. But they never changed the map. The map was always the same. And there was a point, I think you, me, and Matt jumped in a game like months later, and it was just us and another team.
Oh yeah, it
And
was
that was
completely
it.
barren.
And
Yeah.
we landed, and they landed right next to us, and they killed us, and the game was over before the firestorm even started closing in. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like, I mean, I shit you not, like a 3 minute game because we landed, they got guns before we did, and they killed us, and it was like,
I mean, the
this
chances
is
of us
not
even
fun anymore.
the chances of us even finding that team and loading into a game with them, I feel were like a super slim. It must have just literally been us and them on that server.
I think they actually, if I remember that game correctly, I think they actually followed us because that's when you could see where the other team was. Not a smoke show, but your
What?
parachutes. I think they waited for us to shoot, and then they were like, "Let's go there and fuck them up," and that's exactly what happened. Yeah,
It's so yeah. It was it was definitely interesting playing it like months later when the player base was at almost absolutely zero, and then just completely getting obliterated by someone that's probably just been putting all their time into that game
yeah,
nonstop.
yeah, 100%. Um, but another game that disappointed on start, not as bad, but thankfully. So I'm going to preface this, and I think you're going to know exactly what game I'm talking about. They were pushing through development. They hit a couple roadblocks. They actually delayed the development of the game. Um, and then I think they delayed it twice, if I'm not mistaken, twice or maybe even 3 times. But then the game came out. It was still underwhelming, but they immediately started to make changes to it because of the competitive scene that everybody was looking for, and that's Halo, Halo
I was gonna
Infinite.
say, are you talking about Halo?
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I remember from that game is when the game was initially supposed to be released, is that they had like double XP tokens or some kind of rewards on cans of Monster that were
Oh
getting
yeah.
sold at stores, and the game was not yet released for another like 8 months
So the
because they
problem
backed up
was
the development.
So the problem was they wanted to release Halo Infinite in 2020 along with the Xbox Series X. So they started a promotion, they started making all this stuff for it, literally put the game on the side of the Xbox Series X box,
Yeah,
and then here comes 2020. The game's behind schedule as far as development, it needs to polish really bad, and Microsoft is expecting to ship a AAA Halo title with their new console, and that doesn't happen. And so here we are going out to stores, going out to various places, and you are seeing codes for a game that's not releasing for an entire year from now
yeah.
because they jumped the gun on it. They gave 343 a time crunch of saying this is when the game needs to come out. They were not able to fulfill that time crunch. They needed a whole nother year.
Mhm.
They were granted that year, but it completely threw the entire launch of Halo Infinite off. It was one of the worst Microsoft launches I think I've ever seen in my life.
I don't think it was a full year because it was supposed to come out in October, November of 2020, and they gave them a 6 month extension, and then COVID happened.
Well, also, didn't they? I think what happened is they released multiplayer first, and then the campaign came later. Wasn't that
I
also something that
think
happened?
I think that does sound familiar. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That you're right actually, because that was the
They
biggest because they wanted the game for like that competitive level, and a lot of teams like Optic and Subliners and whatever they wanted to play that game too. Optic is Optic Phase. They wanted in the HCS in the
no,
HCS.
they knew that the HCS championship, the Halo's championship series. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I think they realized that the multiplayer section of the game was essentially done. They just had not
yeah,
as many maps as they would want to originally launch with, and
yeah.
that's why we had such a limited selection of maps. But I specifically remember them delaying the campaign, and then the campaign came out, and then they delayed, which they promised would be there on launch day of the campaign, co-op campaign, which
Oh
didn't get
yeah,
added until months or a year later.
yeah,
And then the same thing happened with Forge. They said, "Oh, we're gonna release Forge along with it too. Forge is coming back. Everyone will be able to use Forge again." And that didn't get added until months later. And so it's like
yeah.
they released sections of the game, at months at a time. And I think that also just completely destroyed the launch of it as well. And
Yeah.
as a Halo fan, it's extremely sad to see what happened to the launch of Halo. And also, if you start to read the articles about what happened to the teams that built Halo Infinite, it's pretty sad too.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have the resource. I did watch a YouTube video the other day about it, and the guy that made the YouTube video actually got in contact with one of the old 343 map designers. But there was a big portion, and this was just came out, a big portion of the Halo Infinite campaign that got got completely cut out. There's
Yeah.
an island in the actual campaign map that you can find, and modders have been able to go over to that map, and it is completely detailed. There are ground pickups over there. There are things like a Halo 1 health pack over there.
Really.
They completely had an idea to do DLC packs to continue the campaign,
Yeah.
and the campaign team was dissolved and got
That's
moved
sad.
elsewhere, and it's really sad. I would have loved to have seen that.
I hope because they've already said that they're stopped service for that and they're focusing on the next one. Is that right?
So they're going to continue multiplayer service for that game, but as far
Yeah.
as I know, all campaign development has complete. Like it's really sad, but the entire Halo Infinite campaign team is no longer. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty much just a multiplayer team working on the
Okay.
game now.
Yeah, and that is sad because the I actually had a lot of fun with that campaign. It was really good because I've been needing a good one for a long time.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people have.
it's not an OG like Halo Reach or Halo 3
No.
ODST, but it fills the void a little bit. It half fills up my cup.
What's sad is that they brought ex Bungie devs back to help work on the campaign,
Yeah,
and then dissolve the team.
yeah.
Like we were getting OGs back that were there from day one, that were making the story since day one, come back and help with this game, and then that happens, and
Maybe
it sucks.
that's in the future. Maybe they bring him back. You never know.
The
Yeah,
rumor
I
that
can't
I
tell the
hear is
future.
that I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the rumor that I've heard and have seen online is that they are remaking Halo 1, 2, and 3, and that it'll
I
be
did see that.
released as a single game, and you'll be able to play through the chapters of each game, like Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, and it should all flow simultaneously. There's like no breaks in between. It's just gonna go from, okay, this is the end of Halo 1 campaign, now you're going into Halo 2.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I don't mind it. I think that it's a cool idea. It makes me sad though that creativity, like from a creative side,
Yeah.
that they are at that place with Halo where they're like, well, let's just remake the first 3 games.
Yeah. Well, didn't they already remade it. They remastered it.
Yeah, technically they remastered Halo 1 and Halo 2,
Yeah.
and we were supposed to get a Halo 3 anniversary at some point, but that never happened, and I guess this is their way of giving us a possible Halo
I
3.
I would absolutely love that. Halo 3 is probably my favorite Halo game out of all of them. I mean, Halo 3, that's what I got into. Halo Reach, I cry every time. I cry every time.
I think I was watching a documentary about Halo, or Bungie making Halo Reach, and I think they said in the documentary that from a story wise perspective, it was one of the most intricate and uh, beautiful stories that they had actually ever made. Like the way that the
for
game goes
sure.
about, and they tell Noble Team and all the deaths that happen in Noble Team.
Yeah.
They had a wonderful time, writing that story.
Yeah. R.I.P. George. You'll be missed.
I mean,
Listen, Reach has been good to me. Time has come to return the favor. Don't deny me this. Tell him to make it count.
RIP all of them except
I
Jimmy.
mean, yeah. Well, but I mean, George died thinking he just saved the planet.
Well, George might not be dead. He's probably just somewhere else in the universe.
Yeah, he's over here, over there, and over there, and over there. That's fucked up to say, but yeah.
Well,
he got subspace somewhere.
He went somewhere.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, anyways, back to the competitive side of it with the multiplayer. I think that was a really good game because Halo 5 had a good HCS standing. Halo 4, in my opinion,
I've always heard that
whatever.
a lot of pros did not really care for the Halo 4 multiplayer.
Yeah, and
that was too different.
Yeah, exactly. They tried some new stuff. They tried to go with that more because that was the first, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first 343 Halo game, right?
No,
Was it still
technically,
Bungie?
Halo CE Anniversary was their first game.
Okay, all right.
It's a remake, but it was technically their first nab at it.
Well, it's good to like, try to copy content and say, hey, how do we do? But anyways, back in the Halo competitive side of things, we have the Halo Championship World Series just next week. Halo, it's October 4th to the 6th, so Friday to Sunday of next week. So we'll have episode 2 of our podcast come out that morning. We'll probably talk a lot about that, a lot of the lineups. I'll have a link for that from the Halo Waypoint website. But yeah, the 2024 World Series, and I think it's in Seattle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in Seattle.
I think it's in Seattle. Okay, so that's going to be exciting. We'll probably.
I love watching that.
Probably watch some of that because that's where again, that's what got me into the competitive gaming and things, was the Halo side.
Yeah.
So watching some Halo professionals go at it, man, it's just going to get my blood flowing again. So who knows?
It'll be fun. I can't wait to see what Optic is going to pull, since they're one of the best teams in the league.
I agree 100%. But yeah, man, that's pretty much all I have to talk about tonight. Kai, do you have anything you want to add to, or miscellaneous items that we missed?
The last few things on our notes, but we can always, if you want to, we can always cover that next week, or we can cover it now. It's your choice.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's do those. Let's do those next week, because that's some new stuff just came about, and we'll get some more information on some of that stuff. We'll talk about all that stuff next week. The stuff that we're referring to, so that way the viewers aren't like, oh, they're not sharing stuff with us.
Yeah.
We try, like I said at the beginning of this, we're trying to keep it to an hour. We're a little bit over that, but that was
I was about to ask if we went over a little bit of an hour.
We did, yeah, we did. And that's okay. That's we did a lot of introduction stuff, which is more what this episode was really going to be about. We did a lot
of. They got an extra 15-30 minutes out of us.
Something like that. Yeah. But the stuff that we were going to talk about was the Microsoft layoffs and the ambassador program, which I said that Kai was going to talk about because I kind of stirred the pot a little bit at the beginning of the podcast. But not to worry, we will cover that next episode for sure. I promise. Because some of you viewers may actually be ambassadors who also have the same viewpoint as Kai, which is not a good one. Thumbs down. Ending that program, but we'll talk about that and we'll see. We'll see what goes on. So, but next week's podcast will come. So this one is coming out on September 27th, right? Like I said, we're recording on the 25th. Next week's podcast will come out on October 4th, and that will be the first day of the Halo Championship World Series, which we just talked about. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Halo competitive side, probably dive into that gameplay stuff, talk about some pros, and go on from there.
If you're free that weekend, we should do streams where we watch it and react.
100%. I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, me too.
You can throw it up on this stage right here too.
Yeah. Well, we can also dual stream on Twitch.
Yeah, we can do like a little reaction and stuff too. Perfecto.
I'm pretty sure they never have a problem with other streamers streaming the event because it's extra publicity for them. It's not like we'd get copyright striked or anything. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm 100% down.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Cool. All right. Well, now we know what we're doing. So sometime between the 4th and the 6th, y'all come check it out. Come hang out in the podcast or this Twitch streams, whichever one we do. We'll figure that out later. Yeah, minor details. Watch party for Halo Championship World Series. But again, this was the first episode of our new podcast called XP Lounge. I'm Zach, a.k.a. Medic Log Frog, on basically everything except Xbox, a.k.a. Hardcore Buzzman on Xbox. This is Kai. Tell him your names, Kai. Tell me everything.
I'm Malachi. I'm Malachi the Prophet on almost all social media platforms. I pretty much am. Except on Xbox, I go by Hardcore Pelican because we made those names when we were 12 or 11 and decided to never change them, and I'm kind of glad we did that. So come catch us on Twitch or come hang out in the Discord or catch Zach's YouTube, since this is where this will be uploaded at Medic Log Frog. Just catch us around because we are definitely doing things, and we'll be here next week with another podcast for you guys. So
yeah,
but don't forget to. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say
no. Go ahead. Say your thing.
Before you forget, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. down below, because it really helps us out. Even if you dislike it, it still helps us out. And comment and tell us what you may want to hear from us, or just if you have any points that you want to get across. We are definitely listening and reading the comments. So
yeah, tell us questions about something. If you want us to talk about something in the future, talking point for us to discuss amongst ourselves what you guys think our viewpoints would be. Let us know. We're gonna listen. We're gonna read all the comments. We're gonna listen to your concerns. We're gonna heed your criticisms, good or bad. So we're gonna try to make it better. Again, first episode, we're making changes as we go. So this isn't the final product, but it's going to be a work in progress for sure.
This podcast may be a continually evolving product. It may never be the same each week. It could be completely different.
Yeah, you never know. So come back each week. Come check us out. Tell us what you think of the changes, and we'll go from there. So
sounds good.
Anything else you got to say, Kai?
No. Just like I said, like and subscribe. Show support to us in any way that you can. Even just sharing our links or just sharing this YouTube video will support us in any way. So just give us a little bit of support, and we'll be here next week for you guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for coming to check out the channel. See y'all later.
Thank you, guys. See you guys.